Thanks for dropping in on the Mountain West Network studio. I'm Jesse Kurtz here with your Mountain West Blitz, where we get you the inside information on your favorite teams from our network of campus experts. We start with Utah State, who's coming off a defensive performance for the ages, forcing 8 turnovers in a 52-26 victory over then nationally ranked Boise State. Utah State now 3-0 in Mountain West play for the first time since joining the league. The voice of the Aggies, Al Lewis, now kind enough to join us here on the Mountain West Blitz from Logan, Utah. Al, the 8 turnovers led to 35 points for the Aggies. Where does this defensive effort by Utah State rank in all your years of calling Aggie football?
Well, it'd have to be the best. I remember when I was a kid, I saw a game when the Aggies beat Idaho 69-0, and I think Idaho had like minus 50 rushing and didn't do anything. But that was Merton Olsen in a snowstorm. But this one had more ramifications, beating a Boise State, taking care of a great offensive team like they did, and doing exactly what the game plan said. Take a young quarterback, get him behind, and seeing if he can make some mistakes, and that's exactly what the Utah State defense did.
Well, there's no question Utah State always has a knack for coming up with a great defensive game plan. Obviously, on to the next challenge, and another game with big ramifications, 2 division leaders going head-to-head, and we're talking about Utah State and San Diego State. What are the challenges for Utah State going on the road now, taking on a red-hot Aztec team?
I think, again, it boils down to running game. I felt like going into Boise State, if the Aggies could run the ball offensively, they'd be okay, and they did. And again, if they can run the ball and stop or slow down Donnell Pumphrey in some way, Utah State's been very good against the run, and they're going to have to be, because that's exactly the way San Diego State says. We're going to run the ball, you come stop us, and they're going to try to figure out a way to do it. It'll be interesting to see if they can.
Certainly look forward to that clash between strength on strength. Al, appreciate your time, and travel safely to San Diego.
All right, thanks, Jesse.
You can watch the big showdown on Friday night on ESPN2 at 7:30 Pacific time. Wyoming's got that winning feeling again after topping Nevada 28-21. A big reason for the win, the Cowboys didn't allow a single sack in the game, first time that's happened all year, and it helped Cameron Kaufman claim the Mountain West Offensive Player of the Week award. Joining us now from Laramie is the color analyst on the Cowboys radio broadcast, Kevin McKinney. Kevin, winning can be contagious. What did that win over Nevada do for the overall mood of the program right now coming off the victory?
Well, no question, Jesse. Everybody's excited. The fans are excited. It meant an awful lot to Wyoming because there's so many young players in the program. Nobody had a chance to sing Cowboy Joe, for crying out loud, after the game. So it meant a great deal to those kids. They've been fighting hard, they've been playing hard, and no fruits of the labor. So now they know what it's like, and I think they really enjoyed it.
There are a lot of freshmen playing for Craig Bohl's club this year, but one of those seniors, one of the mainstays of the program here for the recent past has been Eddie Yarbrough. Been sensational for the Cowboy defense. 33.5 tackles for a loss. He trails only John Fletcher on the all-time list at the University of Wyoming, who has 36. And in all likelihood, Yarbrough will break that record before the season is over. I ask you, what sort of legacy will Eddie leave behind when he ultimately moves on from this program? Because he's meant so much on and off the field to the Pokes.
Well, he's going to leave a great legacy. I think he's the kind of guy, when you talk about Eddie, it's not only his ability and what he's gotten done, but he's been so consistent in what he's done. He's each and every year in the top 2 or 3 in tackles. He's always been there for the team, and he's been in a situation where the Cowboys didn't have their best years while he was playing, yet he continued to play hard, continued to play well. And I think he'll be numbered among some of the great defensive linemen in the history of Wyoming.
No question. Eddie Yarbrough and the Pokes will take on Boise State this week. Appreciate the time, Kevin.
Okay, Jesse.
Fresno State's coming off a thrilling comeback win over UNLV 31-28 that saw the Bulldogs erase an 11-point deficit in the fourth quarter to pick up their first conference victory of the season. Joining us now from Fresno, California is the voice of the Bulldogs, Paul Leffler. Paul, Kilton Anderson became the first quarterback since Derek Carr to lead a fourth quarter comeback win when Derek did it over Rutgers. I thought the redshirt freshman made a huge improvement from his first start against Utah State to what we saw against UNLV. Why were those improvements made?
Well, I think it's a variety of things. One, he's inexperienced. You would expect that learning curve to be pretty sharp and for there to be significant progress week to week. Second, he went from facing a Utah State defense that you saw what they did against the Broncos last week to facing a UNLV defense that didn't have quite as many guys who can force those turnovers. And he grew up. The other part of it was he had all the practice reps. The week before, he had kind of split reps with Zach Greenley. This time, he was the guy getting all that experience in practice, and the coaches were really in his ear about some decisions made the previous week where some running plays were there, but he didn't call his own number. This time against UNLV, he wasn't gun shy about saying, you know what, this is a play where I see what that guy's doing, and it's my turn to take the ball, and I'm going to run with it and run physically, and he did.
Well, this week, Fresno State is at Air Force, which will be a very special week at the Academy. Marks the return of Tim DeRuyter to his alma mater, going to coach as a head coach for the first time against his alma mater at Falcon Stadium. And I know what's going to be said leading into this game from both sides, downplaying the significance. But what does this game and this return really mean to Tim DeRuyter coming back to the Air Force Academy as a head coach?
You're right. He has downplayed it, and I'm sure Troy Calhoun will too. But it is big. I mean, the Academy is a huge part of his life, and I've had so many conversations with him about what it did for him, how it built mental toughness, how it instilled discipline that has made him successful in coaching. And even a couple weeks ago, he said, hey, I'm missing my 30-year reunion this week at the Academy. I said, well, you're going to be a couple weeks late. So now he gets to come back. And even when he wasn't playing or coaching there, you know, just the last 4 years, his son Jake graduated from the Academy a year ago. So he's been there so much. He appreciates so much what these young men go through, the commitment they make to our country, and what a special place the Air Force Academy is. So I know the emotions are going to be flowing for a guy who is an emotional person, even got emotional after the win over UNLV the other day. This is going to be big for him, and I'm sure he's already envisioning how it might unfold and what it might feel like.
No doubt about it. Look forward to it on Saturday. Thanks, Paul.
You bet.
Colorado State is off this week after its best performance of the season last Saturday, handing Air Force its first conference loss of the year, 38-23, to reclaim the Ram Falcon Trophy. Joining us now is the color analyst on the Colorado State Radio Network, Brian Roth, who is in the booth for the Rams Falcon game. CSU's offense, Brian, looked really good in that game. 296 yards passing, 160 yards rushing. Had great balance. What was the difference that we saw against Air Force that they were lacking in weeks prior?
Well, I think, number one, there weren't really any catastrophic mistakes. You know, we saw Nick Stevens throw an interception in that game, but it did come on fourth down. And to be honest, I think competition had a little something to do with it as well. You know, you go into Utah State, a very physical rush defense and a very good defense in the Aggies. Then, of course, the Broncos defense of Boise State that I think is the best in the Mountain West Conference, even though they didn't show it last week against the Aggies. But I think it was a little bit of execution, limiting the mistakes, and then a step down a bit in competition.
The Rams defense also came to play in a major way. Held Air Force to 269 yards rushing, well below their average of 320 yards. So the offense and defense clicks all on the same day. The special teams is great, punting as well, pinning the Falcons inside the 20-yard line time and time again. So I ask you this, where will the focus be put in the bye week heading into that big stretch run, which will include a date with San Diego State?
Yeah, you know, I think you still have to just go back to the fundamentals. I mean, just because you knock off Air Force, it doesn't automatically turn around your season. I think it's a big step in starting to turn around that season because Ram fans were growing just a little bit restless. But, you know, at the end of the day, turnovers and big mistakes have been a problem through the first 6 games. And just because it wasn't a problem really in game number 7 doesn't mean you've completely abolished that. I think you'll see Mike Bobo and that coaching staff going 3 times here this week before giving the players the weekend off. You go back to fundamentals and you continue to preach, guys, we got to play disciplined, smart football going the rest of the way, because there's no question that the schedule gets a lot easier. San Diego State on Halloween, and then it gets much easier from there on out.
So, Brian, appreciate the insight and enjoy the bye week.
All right, thanks, Jesse. Appreciate it.
That's going to do it for this week's show. For Al Lewis, for Kevin McKinney, Paul Leffler, and Brian Roth, I'm Jesse Kurtz saying thanks for watching this week's Mountain West Blitz right here on the Mountain West Network.